Welcome to Inclusive Gathering Birmingham. My name is Danielle. Today we're talking about a book called Queer Virtue by Liz Edman. And it's really appropriate for a couple of reasons. This week starts the festival of Lent, the Christian festival that leads up to Easter. And also it's LGBTQ History Month. And you'll see there's a couple of different events where we're celebrating LGBTQ identities. And Liz Edman's book has been a really significant one for lots of us because it does celebrate what queer people bring to the pursuit of faith in Christ. And so Liz is going to be joining us actually a little bit later on to talk about something called Glitter+Ash Wednesday. And I will introduce her again in a little bit. So whether you're gay or straight, whatever your gender identity, whatever your race or ethnicity, political affiliation, wherever you are on a journey of faith or not, you're really welcome to be here with us as you are. And I'm going to hand over for some music now.
God of creation, there at the start, before the beginning of time. No point of reference, you spoke to the dark, fleshed out the wonder of light. And as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born. In the vapor of your breath, the planets form. If the stars were made to worship so alive, I can see your heart in everything you've made. Every burning star a signal from pressed down my heart through all of my failures and pride. On a hill you created, the light of the world, abandoned in darkness to die. And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear. Where you lost your life, so I can find it here. You left the grave behind you, so alive. I can see your heart in everything you've done. Every part designed, a work of art called love. If you gladly chose surrender, so will I. I can see your heart in a billion different ways. Every precious child you died to save. If you gave your life to love them, so will I. Like you would again 100 billion times. But what measure could amount to your desire? You're the one who never leaves the one behind.
As part of our regular worship gathering, we have what we call our question for sharing, to give people a moment to connect with each other. So we're going to ask you a question, and as we share our answers, you can also share your answers in the comments on Facebook Live or YouTube. So the question is this: what would you immediately tell or not tell a stranger about yourself?
So what are the things that I would tell a stranger about myself, and what things would I definitely not tell them? Well, it does depend on the context. Often I have to spend a little bit of time explaining why I sound the way I sound, where I say that I'm from Birmingham, for example, to a stranger, and they say, well, you don't sound like you're from Birmingham. So if time allows, I end up telling them where I'm from originally, and sometimes I don't do that. It depends on the context. Other times I'm just saying, yeah, I'm Josie's dad. Yeah, we like going out doing this, or yeah, I'm Danielle's husband. That's the context in which I am. Yeah, so it completely depends on the context. In terms of what I don't tell people, I'm pretty open, actually. And maybe I like meeting new people, and so I tend to try to get into a conversation if there's time. So yeah, often it's finding that little connection between people. So I'll be saying, yeah, I just recorded some music the other day, and that sometimes opens up a conversation in a new way. It does depend on the context, but I'm usually pretty open.
Hi everyone, my name's Cam. This prayer is by Barb Hargrave. Feel free to pray along with me, or just let the words wash over you. God, we ask that in your loving persistence, you pry loose what keeps us stuck inside ourselves. Reach into us with power and love so fully that we overflow toward the world around us. Dissolve the handholds where we stubbornly cling to guilt and self-condemnation. Shake apart our attachments to fear and judgment. Deep inside, we doubt that anyone could ever love us as we are, even you, God, our Creator and eternal lover. You are always closer to us than the air we breathe, but so often we are unaware and inattentive. Forgive us when we wander off. Teach us the truth that you love us completely, right where we are, right now. May that truth transform our lives and set us free. Amen.
This is a reading from Ephesians chapter 1, verses 18 to 23. I ask that your minds may be open to see his light, so that you will know what is the hope to which he has called you, how rich are the wonderful blessings he promises his people, and how very great is his power at work in us who believe. This power working in us is the same as the mighty strength he used when he raised Christ from death and seated him at his right side in the heavenly world. Christ rules there above all heavenly rulers, authorities, powers, and lords. He has a title superior to all titles of authority in this world and in the next. God put all things under Christ's feet and gave him to the church as supreme Lord over all things. The church is Christ's body, the completion of him who himself completes all things everywhere.
Hello, my name's Julia and I'm part of Inclusive Gathering Birmingham, and I'm here with my partner Sam.
Hello, I'm Sam, and today we're going to be thinking about the book Queer Virtue by the Reverend Liz Edman.
So we're really excited about the fact that some of us are going to be looking at this as a Lent study. So that should be good. I think there's a lot in here that we think is worthwhile revisiting for ourselves, and other people will find interesting, whether or not you define it as queer.
That's right. Yeah. So that word then, so it's called Queer Virtue. How does Liz Edman define that, or how, in the context of the book, what does she mean by that word queer?
Queer, I think she uses it in the way of queering, as in asking questions, but I think also which I haven't come across elsewhere, but that doesn't mean it's not out there, it's just that I might not come across it, is very much about rupturing the binaries, as she calls it.
Okay.
So she says that, yeah, I think that comes from queer theory, but I'm not an expert in that field.
Yeah. So when she says queer, she doesn't specifically mean in terms of sexual orientation or gender specifically.
I think she does and she doesn't.
Okay.
I think to some extent there's a lot of times where she is using that specifically, but she also talks about queer Christianity, and there she's very specifically not talking about sexuality and talking about, you know, the whole journey through the Bible is very much about the way that we are challenged not to use binaries all the time.
Okay. Yeah.
Whether it's life and death, and male, female, slave, Gentile, Jews, Gentiles.
Yeah. Slave or free, I think.
Slave or free, yes.
Yeah, okay.
She's an Episcopalian priest.
Yeah.
And she says she describes herself as a queer priest. So she said that's an interesting phrase, because it's like priest is the noun and queer is the verb, but it equally would work the other way around. But she's very keen on her definition as a priest, partly because it gives her a chance to spend a lot of time. She really loves the Bible, so she likes to dig into it. And but she says she's constantly recognizing that her identity as a queer person affects her understanding of the Bible. And she, part of this book is to share with people who wouldn't identify it as queer some of the joys that being queer might bring to an understanding of God's work in the world.
Right. So a different dimension, perhaps.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, what she would say is that for all of us, we should be looking at the life and experiences, identities of other people to help us understand our own authentic Christianity.
Right.
So she uses the word authentic Christianity quite a lot and explores that as a concept.
Okay.
So when she's doing that, she's saying she's using that as opposed to, she says there'll be people who are nominal Christians, and that's not a negative thing, that's just their choice. But when she's talking about authentic Christians, she's talking about those people who want to live their lives in a way that we understand is our understanding of the Western canon, and perhaps the way that the early church chose to live influences our thinking about how we might live.
Okay. When she says authentic Christianity, she's particularly talking about the Western tradition.
That's right. That's right. She says she because she's not an expert on the Eastern orthodoxy, she can't make any comments about it, or Gnosticism or other areas that she's not an expert in. She says they may or may not be further ahead of us, and perhaps they are, but she doesn't know. So her challenges are very much to Western Christianity. Again, she likes to make the point of fairly early on, I think in the introduction of the book, that although there's a lot of homophobia within Christianity, Christianity is not universally homophobic.
Okay.
And there have been a number of denominations, but also in all denominations over the last 50 years or so, there'll have been many clergy, lay people, queer, non-queer, who have been challenging the negative messages that queer people will have got, and she wants to, acknowledge all of those people.
In the introduction to the book, she talks about how she would introduce herself to somebody if she was in a lift or an elevator, because she's from the US, so
yes.
Elevator, lift, whatever you say. Remind me of that.
So basically what she was saying is that when she's in a lift, she wouldn't necessarily or unlikely to identify herself as a Christian, because of the negative views that so many people have of Christians, partly because it's the most extreme Christians who are the most vocal. However, she says she would come out as gay to people, quite likely, in an elevator. And she also talks about this spark that you get between gay people when they recognise each other. And it's like, oh, I'm gay as well, blah, blah, blah.
I remember she read that. I remember reading that bit, and she said it was a bit like feeling at home.
That's right.
In that you kind of, there's a bit of a recognition there of people, and there's a lot to be understood within that recognition. You don't have to keep explaining yourself.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. But I thought it was also interesting that she made the connection there both with the Corrie ten Boom film and how in there somebody came out as Christian in it to somebody else, and that spark of recognition there being so important. And then thinking back to the time of the Romans when the fish was being used, and again she was saying in those times you probably would, if you felt that it might be safe to do so, self-identify as Christian quite early, and there would have been that spark of recognition that is similar to what we were describing earlier and that she described. I think we should just kind of let people know before we finish that there are a really good set of 5 films on the website. So that's queervirtue.com, and there are 5 films which parallel with the with 5 chapters in her book. That's kind of part 1, but also will, as part of the study that we'll do, will be films that we reference there. They're only very short, few minutes each, and it gives you a real feel for who Liz is and her preaching style. So the 5 films are on identity, risk, touch, scandal and adoption. And then in the study that we'd look at, we'd also kind of look at other themes in conjunction with that come from the second part of the book, which he calls The Priestly People, and is very much the sort of challenge to us as the church, which are related to pride, coming out, authenticity and hospitality. And again, I think that doesn't just apply to queer people, but all sorts of minorities or other ways that you might identify yourself and what the issues around are, particularly if it's clashed with church in some way or other.
And the videos are a really good way in to understanding the themes of the book, aren't they?
Yes.
But also in and of themselves a really good resource that can spark off conversations. And one of the things that was really valuable when we looked at it last time is that we looked at one of the videos, we had a chance for someone to talk a little bit about part of their story and how that might have related to that video, and then a bit more of an open discussion.
We've always been keen on stories at IGB, and again, she's very keen on stories, and hearing stories of other that is other to you, whatever that means.
Yeah. Great. So maybe when we come to the Zoom meeting, if people are coming along to that after hearing the service, the themes we might talk about in that Zoom meeting, maybe that the queering might be something interesting to kind of start people off thinking about that and what it might mean. Yeah. Or
of course you might come with your own ideas about what you want to talk about. So we'll see you there, and look forward to it.
Welcome to Liz Edman, who's very nicely agreed to join us to tell us a little bit of the history of Glitter+Ash Wednesday. So if you've received a pack from us, we've sent these little Glitter+Ash stones in the post with a little explanation of what they're about. But Liz, could you just thank you for doing this, and can you tell us a little bit about how Glitter+Ash Wednesday started and what it's all about?
Absolutely, Danielle, thanks so much. And hi, IGB, I'm so pleased to be with you, and I'm so pleased that you're diving into queerness like theologically and liturgically, and that's just such a gift. I have been in the UK every fall for 3 of the last 4 years, and I was not able to go this past year, and it just kind of broke my heart. So I am missing you, and I've never been to Birmingham, so that's like clearly next on my list, and I hope that I'll be able to join you in person. So Glitter and Ash sort of like started, I guess you could say, on Ash Wednesday of 2016. And what happened was I was just downtown, on my lunch break or something, and I'm watching people walk around with ashes on their foreheads. And what occurred to me was they've just come out as Christian. And then I thought to myself, what would it be? I wonder if there's some way that on Ash Wednesday, as people are like out being visibly Christian, what if there was some way that you could indicate that you're also queer? Or a queer ally, right? Like, so it would be like visibly queer, visibly Christian. How would we do that? And I'm like, well, we're a long way from that. And so I made a little note in my calendar with an alarm to go off in January. Put my phone away, didn't even think about it. So we get to January 2017, and of course now this is just following the presidential election of 2016, which was when we elected Donald Trump. And he was just about to be inaugurated, and I was really just sick. I mean, I'm just like sick with just bathing in shame around this whole thing. So all of a sudden my phone chirps and I pull it up, and there's my calendar thing, and it's like Ash Wednesday, visibly queer, visibly Christian. I'm like, oh yeah, that. Oh yeah, that. And I turned to my girlfriend who was packing to go to the Women's March in Washington, and I said to her, how would you do that? Like, how would you indicate that you're queer? And she said, without even thinking about it, she said, put glitter in the ashes. And I'm like, what? And she said, really, just put glitter in the ash. And I gotta tell you, like, I'm a theater geek from way back, but this was a little bit far even for me. So I thought about it, and she and I hit the books, and I found this quote from St. Augustine. And Augustine was talking about repentance. And he said, when you repent, it matters not to fall into despair, because despair paralyzes you. And that keeps you from being able to do the reparative work that repentance demands. And so there we're sitting in this moment that was a moment of such despair for me, but for so many people in this country. And I thought, bingo, that's exactly what we need. So that's how Glitter and Ash started. And I think it matters to say that a lot of people misunderstood the project. We spent then, Parody came on as a sponsor, and this thing kind of went viral, which was amazing. But a lot of people thought that the idea with glitter, they think glitter and they're like, oh, rainbows and unicorns, And it wasn't that. This was, if you all know the British language that evolved, Polari, that evolved in like the gay clubs in the 50s. This was that glitter in that queer sense, glitter in that sense of the glitter that falls from the face of a drag queen, and and at some point somebody comes along and sweeps it up with the dust from the floor. It's that blend, that gritty hope that is expressed by queer people when we go out into the streets. That drag queen who leaves the club at 3 o'clock in the morning, not knowing who she's going to run into, not knowing the hostility that she may face, but she's out, she's being who she is, and she's being that publicly. That's the glitter, that queer hope, that gritty hope, that is this extraordinary blend of determination and raw joy and celebration of our identities, mixed in with ashes, because we know about ashes too. We know the death-dealing violence that we face in the world, and we know what it is to take responsibility for our lives and for the lives of other people. And like, set our course together. That's glitter and ash. That's the paradox of the glitter and the ash together. It's the paradox that we live. And the idea, of course, is to take that and you put it right on your forehead for the world to see. Or I guess in this case, Danielle, you take that stone that's painted on and you put it in your pocket.
Yeah, well, we can't do the touching, can we, this year? But at least there's something tactile that we can, like touching the rough and the smooth together. And it's actually ended up being quite a beautiful little thing to see the glitter stand out. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it.
So I hope I know you're doing a thing today, and I hope it's a wonderful conversation, and blessings on you. It's a treat to be here, and I do look forward to the day when we can be together in person. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thanks, Liz.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Faith, and today I am talking about the Lent devotional calendar that we're going to be participating in. This is kind of a shared venture with Red Letter Christians UK. And so the calendar can be accessed on the Red Letter Christians UK website. It's going to be for every day of the season of Lent. There's going to be a spiritual practice. There might be a reading and a reflection, or sometimes there's a weekly practice. For example, on Fridays, the suggested practice is not eating meat. This is traditional for Lent in commemoration of Jesus' crucifixion on Good Friday. And the season of Lent is 40 days, not including Sunday, from Ash Wednesday to Easter Sunday. And it represents the 40 days that Satan tempted Jesus in the wilderness. And the idea behind this calendar is that in our own wilderness places can sometimes allow us to release what we don't need to hold on to let go of some things and maybe draw closer to what matters. So with each day's practice, you can set an intention to think about how does letting go of something free me to follow God more closely and more faithfully, and how can I take this time to lean more into Jesus and to more faithfully hear how the Holy Spirit is calling me, so we can live into God's way better. So I invite you to try out these practices, and I would love to hear about what you think of them.
And so we come to the part of our service where we have what we call a love feast, which is simply an opportunity for us to eat together. And today I'm here with our community group, and we're going to just have a little snack together. Nets, do you want to say a little bit about about why we do this?
Well, through the scriptures we see Jesus eating with people, just because it's a great way of sharing hospitality, getting to know people, and being part of each other. And although we can't really do that very easily when we're distanced, this is our way of doing it, just in a little part, to bring us closer together and to just follow Jesus' example by sharing food and drink. Lynn, you were going to say grace.
Yeah.
So, blessed are you, Lord our God, sovereign of the universe. Through your goodness we have this bread to eat, which earth has given and human hands have made. Blessed be God forever. For the food that we eat and the company we share, we thank you, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. So the people want to share what they've got. Pamela, do you want to tell people?
Well, I've got a hot chocolate with caramel flavor, and I've got a yogurt rice cake.
That's lovely.
I've got some chunky chocolate marshmallow ice cream.
I've got a rather bizarre combination of some
Jam sandwich
that I made earlier on, that I cooked earlier on. What have you got there?
A jam sandwich.
Or jam sandwich, yeah.
Very nice.
Jam sandwich.
Lovely. So please,
glad I get paid tomorrow.
please join us. And if you want to share in the chat what you've got, that would be great. And please, it's just an opportunity for us all to eat together. And imagine if we were all together in person eating, that would be brilliant. So, bon appetit.
If you're gay and over 85, you fought for your whole life. But when God made you, He just messed up. If you've been raised a Southern belle, born and bred for show and tell, but you lie down feeling never good enough, I'm so sorry for how it's been. We're broken artists with broken pens. We paint our pride and call it truth. I'm sorry no one explained Jesus to you. If you heard a knock on your front door, and all that you found on the porch was a pastor that just wanted to be right, and if you really want to pray to him, but you're never sure he's listening, 'cause who could forgive what you did last night? I'm so sorry for what you've heard. We're broken poets with silly words. We paint agendas and call it truth. I'm sorry no one explained Jesus to you. Can't you feel it in the room? All he wants is you. And I'm so sorry for all the wrongs. We're broken singers with broken songs. We paint our pride and call it truth. I'm sorry no one explained Jesus to you. I'm sorry no one explained Jesus to you. I'm sorry no one explained Jesus to you.
We hope that you've been blessed and enjoyed today's service. I want to talk to you for a minute about the fact that in February it's LGBT+ History Month, and it's a great opportunity that I want to mention to you, which is on Monday, the 22nd of February. We're going to be coming together and sharing and looking at historical figures in the LGBT+ community, including allies who have been designated as heroes. And so I want to share those with you. I want to talk a little bit about UK LGBT plus history, and we'll look at the positives and some of the struggles along the way as well. And then we might look at the wider world as well. So as I say, it's a little bit of input from me at the beginning, but then hopefully we'll get into some wider discussion, and it should be a nice light evening where we can actually learn together and share with each other. And so it'd be great to see you there.
Thanks for joining us today. If you want to move over to Zoom with us at 5:15, we're going to be having a continued discussion about queer virtue and what we can learn from it. So there's going to be a link that we share here, and also it's on our website too if you want to find out how to get over to the Zoom. There's a few different events that are coming up. On Tuesday, we're doing a kind of pancake day, cook along kind of event. If you've never cooked together on Zoom, it's really quite fun. And this was a way for us to celebrate Pancake Day and eat some pancakes together, even from a distance. Lots of you signed up to receive Lent and Easter packs from us in the post. We've got a few more we could still send out that include things like the Glitter+Ash Wednesday marble and prayer and a few other little bits and pieces. So you'd be really welcome to email me and I can send you what I've got left. Anyway, so all that remains is for us to finish with the blessing that we share every week. May we live fully, may we love wastefully, and may we have the courage to be all that God has created us to be. See you soon.